any kind of transfer. But if we do the same thing for the test record, what we got is all the data from here. So I hope this makes sense. And now, like if the DNS server is not properly configured, is that it will share us all the details, but if the DNS server are properly configured, the zone transfer record will not be shared by that name servers. Okay. So I hope this is much clear now. Okay. Now let's figure out the next thing. So I hope this zone transfer thing topic is like clear. And now let's me go to the next part, which is brute forcing. Okay. So brute forcing is another thing which is very, very kind of common. Okay. So what will happen is that why the brute forcing will kind of work is that when let's say as a user, let's say I am the owner of google.com, for an example, which I'm not, but let's imagine that. So let's say thing is that google.com, and if as an owner I want to kind of I want to host certain different subdomains, I will try to kind of give certain easy to remember names, like which will make also sense to the consumers, like mail.google.com. So consumer will know that, okay, it is something related to the Gmail part that we normally use to kind of send emails out and in. Okay. Maybe something like video.com. So user will know that, okay, this is something related to kind of serving the web videos. Similarly, photos serving to kind of serve the photos. So as an owner, I will try to kind of set up some easy to remember names like photos, videos, and all. So this also adds to what to say. So if I'm trying to, let's say I have certain other domains, like internally, let's say for my own internal employees, let's say I have certain other domains like metrics.google.com, which is kind of for internal users, or let's say research.google.com, which is for internal users, which I don't want to disclose to which I don't want to disclose to public. So what I think is that these all words are kind of easy to guess. So as an attacker, what I will do is that I will prepare a dictionary. Of common words, and that dictionary will have a lot of words like, let's say, research, or let's say videos, or video, or photos, or photo, or maybe mail. Okay. And what my script will do, it will go through each of these words one by one, and it will try to kind of find the A records, or try to find the IP address of this domain. So what my script will do is that it will take, let's say, one word at a time, let's say research, and it will append that with google.com, like research.google.com, and it will try to find out the IP address. Okay. And if that domain is really up, so what it will do is that as an attacker, I will get the IP address of research.google.com, and also I will know that, let's say, the domains that are in public are videos, photos, and mail. I will know that there are other subdomains, valid subdomains, which is like one of them is research.google.com, and also I will know what's the IP address of that. Okay. So that's another easy way to kind of figure out all the subdomains and all the IP address behind. So even though, let's say, the zone transfer attack was not possible, what we can do is that using brute forcing, what we can do is that we can figure out the other subdomains, or let's say other IP addresses of the servers that are hosted under that main domain, like google.com. Okay. So that's one of the easy way to do that. So so there are three ways to do the DNS discovery attack. The first thing is passive DNS and overnight. The other is the zone transfer that we saw in the demo lab, and the third is the brute forcing. Okay. So I hope now this is like quite clear what are different ways of discovery, and how. Now the thing is that as a security professional, we'll try to see for few of the things how we can kind of detect this kind of attacks ongoing. Okay, this kind of recon. So what we do, the term that we normally utilize for this is recon activity. Okay, what are the different kind of recon activity? How we can kind of figure out the recon activity as a cybersecurity professional. Okay, so we'll quickly go through this one by one. Okay, so let me just quickly go to the okay. So what I'll do, guys, just give me 1 minute break. I'll just quickly grab some water, and then I will kind of we'll resume our discussion on the detecting recon activity. Okay, so just give me 1 minute. Okay, guys, now let's resume our discussion on detecting recon activity. So, okay. So let me just quickly grab my notes just to not forget about what all things to discuss. And okay, now the thing is that how we can do that is the first thing. The first thing is that one way is to set up like detecting DNS discovery is something which is when someone is trying to find and access websites that does not actually exist. Okay, and this is something we were trying to kind of see what are the different things by which recon activities are done, which is passive DNS, zone transfer, and brute forcing. And now our objective is to detect recon activity. Okay, and how we can do that. Okay, so what's the first step? So one way is to set up a system that alerts you when there are lot of DNS requests coming from a single source. Okay, so if you receive such an alert, what you do is that you can investigate the request and check if they are for non-existing domain. Okay, so one of the thing is that, let's say, what as I told, the IP address, for example. Okay, it's making multiple DNS requests. Okay, it's making multiple DNS requests, or let's say high volume of request. Okay, so in this case, what we can do is that this is actually a very valid alert. So what we can do is that we can set up some kind of an alert on SIEM tools, or let's say my favorite is basically using Splunk. Okay, because it has a lot of easy to write queries. But what we can do is that we can easily kind of we can easily kind of set up an alert by which we can say that, okay, let's say if an IP address is making huge number of DNS requests, let's say there's a huge spike. For an example, a normal scenario will be one user is making, let's say, 10 DNS requests, 10 DNS requests at every 5 seconds. Okay, but let's imagine that there is one user who is who has actually made, let's say, 1,000 DNS requests. Okay, in, let's say, just like 10 seconds of interval. Okay, so this is actually kind of potentially malicious traffic, because this is kind of this is traffic which is separate out from the other users. So other users are making, let's say, 10 DNS requests, but there's one user who is making thousands of requests. So that is something, one of the way what we can do is that we can set up an alert, and it can kind of tell us that, okay, kind of point us to those users who are kind of making huge volume DNS requests. So this would kind of turn out to be either false positive, maybe because the user is, let's say, is from the networking team